What Drives You is brought to you by Ziglar, your premier source for equipping life and leadership coaches. Visit Ziglar.com and let them inspire your true coaching performance.
Yeah.
Welcome to What Drives You. I'm your host, Kevin Miller, and thanks for joining me as I talk with today's most influential change makers to uncover what truly drives them and extract the big takeaways from their insights so you can integrate that wisdom and leverage the power of your unique inner drive and wake every day to your authentic, driven, and inspired self. This is our Peak Wellness episode where we give focus to our health and wellness. This is the vehicle that drives everything that we do. In this specific episode, we address how to run. Specifically, though, how to run without injury and keep running into old age. We're advocating running simply because it's just one of the easiest exercises that can be done nearly anywhere, anytime, with little to no equipment required. So many people I know would run. They'd like to, but they don't, even if they used to, and they used to love it. And the reason, aches and pains. It's just so prevalent. We've gotten to where it's the norm to stop running earlier in life and try to find an exercise with less impact. Well, we weren't made to just phase out because the impact was too much. It's because we're doing some things incorrectly. So I had this as my own story. I did a 2-hour run on a Father's Day. It's probably been about 6 years ago now. It was glorious, except for the pain in my hip and my back that was just getting to a place where I'm not going to be able to continue this. It was then that my co-host, Dr. Randy James, and I got a hold of some new information. Today, we both run pain-free. True story. Did some today. It's not a guarantee that it'll fix everything. But again, looking at this, whether you love to run or not, if you want to just incorporate it into your exercise and movement routine, this is a show that should give you some hope and opportunity to be able to do it, continue it, or to start running for the first time pain-free, or at least with less. So to hit on the advocacy of running, you were just talking about pickleball and racquetball, and you play tennis, and I ride a bike, and people swim and my wife does Zumba classes. She dances. All those things, though, a lot of those things take money or equipment, or you got to go travel to do it. I do like the opportunity of running and advocate it as such, because you can just do it anytime, anywhere with, well, I was going to say, with a pair of shoes, and we're going to talk even about what kind of shoes and talk about some options.
I hate running because I never have a good excuse.
To not run. That's true. That's true. I mean, I've done it at a hotel in the middle of the city and just go outside.
You and I did it that one time in the middle of Ohio, Wisconsin,
I think. Yeah, I do. It's one of the main things. I'll go to a city, and one of the first things I enjoy doing is to go for a run,
explore it,
just to kind of help me get a feel for where I am, especially if it is, a big city. And I just I'm always coming back. Like I just did a trip with my wife, and I'll come back and I can tell her, okay, so there's this store and this restaurant, and I get my bearings, and Well, but the fact that it is one of the easiest things to do. And I do like that it can get us outside generally. And I know you do the treadmill a good bit when the weather's bad and whatever, but it has that opportunity as well. And then, as we're going to address in this, there are so many people who would be more prone to do it, but they struggle with injury, whether it's foot stuff. We'll talk to that. But there's also a lot of people just with joint pain and hip pain. Yeah. And that was my experience, that we'll get into, as well. So we'll talk about the injury, but to talk about, the benefits, obviously it's easily accessible. There's so many, I also am aware that there's so many, affinity group opportunities. I mean, you can find a running club. If you like right now here in our town, we have an aquatic center. Mm-hmm. I have no idea, but I'm not aware. Is there like a swimming group, And can we sign up for a swimming event? I mean, unless you're doing triathlons and stuff, you can't. And
I don't know.
I don't either.
I'm not a swimmer.
I'm not aware of that. But running, man, anywhere you can find generally a running club, a group of people that run. Our little town has, I think they have some running club. So many places have it. Down in the Springs, they've got Jack Quinn's. It's an Irish restaurant pub thing, and they have somebody sponsors a run. And there's so many events that are so inspiring just to go to. I know a lot of people, and that is what they do. That's kind of their hobby, that are not great runners. I mean, they're slow runners. They're not even super fit looking, but it's a healthy activity. They get out, they go to the event. The events are often just so inspiring, just fun people.
Being with those people.
Yeah. And you got the people that are going for, the finish line, a lot of people going for a PR, and some people walking with a stroller.
Yeah.
So again, it bodes well for getting with groups. You can get accountability then with those groups. Like I know the Jack Quinn's, they go at 6:00 Tuesday nights all the time. And it's an opportunity that you don't always have with other exercise
sports. Yeah.
Like even you with tennis. I mean, I don't know if there's
not up here.
Yeah. And can you do an event? Now you did a soccer league a couple years ago. That's, I guess, an opportunity for some people.
Well, and now we're all into the coaching side of it and the youth side of it, which is a big part of all of these sports, is the youth side of it and the community. And, today we've already got planned for tomorrow soccer, and I'm so looking forward to it. It's going to be the outsideness, the sun, the green grass, and talking with parents. And I go in my soccer skivvies and, try to play with the kids too.
Yeah. Well, and just think, it's interesting to think about that with the little kids. I mean, my kids, if they're out at recess, they're running. If they're at home outside, they're running. Most of the sports, ball sports especially, they're running. And if we go back to our, back before this current civilized time, I mean, we walked and ran everywhere. You didn't read it, but you were just talking about walking. I just read C.S. Lewis's, no, it wasn't C.S. Lewis. It was it was Becoming Mrs. Lewis. It was about his ultimate wife. But in there, it just talked a lot about their daily life, and they walked.
Yeah.
It was interesting because they would have had horses and carriages and all that kind of stuff back when he was living in England. And
they actually had cars.
During his time?
Sure.
Really? I don't remember. Yeah, you're right.
World War II.
He wasn't that old. Okay. Yeah. Well, they walked though. He would talk about that. He'd sit there and write and read and whatever. And then they would walk 2 miles to the pub, to the library, to the whatever. They just walked, which is just great. We don't do that these days. And sometimes I feel stupid for that I'm going to jump in my car, drive a mile down, grab something from the grocery, do something from the bank, drive 2.5 miles, come back here, park, get my running stuff on and go for a run. Well,
it's like the elevator in front of the gymnasium.
Yes.
That picture.
Yeah. So we've talked about that, but the things that we delegate, manual labor that we could do.
So that we can
go to the gym
and go to the gym.
And go to class. Yeah.
And lift up things that we'll never, ever need to lift up.
That's true. Inanimate objects. Yeah. Well,
but everybody runs. And you mentioned the grade school kids. And that's another, we talked about, remember the author of Something About Fitness, and we see ourselves as athletic or not. We talked this morning about young kids, about they play.
Yeah.
And they volunteer. A kindergartner always raises his hand. Oh, I'm an artist. Oh, I know how to do that. And they play until they get later, and they're happy to run. Now, they don't want to go jogging because that doesn't make any sense at all. But if you start them on a game of whatever, they'll go for hours. Mm-hmm. And that data has been done too, where they put a pedometer on a 5-6-year-old, and it'll put you to shame.
Oh yeah.
What they do on but the minute you say, hey, we're going to go on a hike or we're going to go on a jog, it's like, well, that's the dumbest thing ever for them. And culturally we are stuck, but we're coming back to this idea that everybody can run, everybody can walk, can move at those kind of things. And it ought to be something that we see ourselves as athletes doing until we die.
I got to give you a sweet thing. So Nakota, he will go out on a run with me, but he'll come and he'll run and he's proud to do that. And we'll jog along, but he'll have times where he'll say, gosh, can we walk a little bit, just catch our breath or walk that hill? And I'll say, yeah. And we'll stop and he'll grab my hand.
and sit there. And I feel like that's best
sweet.
dad ever and the sweetest time ever. Yeah. That's another thing. It's a thing that anybody can do, like the family. I mean, to go out for a walk, run, hike, which we do around here, is so much easier to facilitate than if we're going to do biking. I'm invariably,
right.
How are the tires? How are the,
well, and then the limits of the slowest person versus the fastest person. True. And if you're on any kind of a mountain, it's a dramatic, because then we got to drive down to, a flatter place. Mm-hmm. Over in our neighborhood is a German family. So the two parents are first degree Germans. They came from Germany. Yeah. And so their son had played in the soccer league that Marcy coaches for a while, and now he's older, but we see him all the time walking.
Yeah.
As if they're strange looking. They don't look like, little bit different. Mm-hmm. But I missed that. And when we lived in Germany, Marcy and I, we did do that almost every day.
Yeah.
Cause the weather's great. It's outside. And then we got to the point where it's like, we relished that. We went with the stroller. It was great.
Well, let's uphold that. I mean, walking. I mean, it is, back to, we've done stuff and talked about some of the early episodes. We did one on, exercise, but you ultimately said it's just move, whatever your movement is. But this one it's good for cardio. It works out. It's not a whole full body workout. Now you can sit there and, pump your arms. And I saw a lady the other day running, holding weights in her hands. Yeah. And you could do some things to be more mobile. And I would advocate for that as opposed to, because you can shuffle along and not move a whole lot. But even walking, and brisk walking and, include some stairs and some hills, just think about doing that every day. You're not going to end up being the person who can't move, who can't get up off the couch, who is out of breath, walking upstairs somewhere. So, again, the advocacy for that. But let's hit on injury, because that is, well,
I'd put it as probably number one, if we're talking to the over 40, over 50 crowd, as, well, why don't you do that? People would say, gosh, I'd really like to do that. And number one is still going to be time. Do you remember what number two is?
No.
I don't have enough energy.
Yeah. Well,
number three is going to be injury.
Yeah.
Right. So, I would, but I hurt my knee, I hurt my back, I hurt something else. And so we're not telling those people to just say, grin and bear it and get out there. You have to do it in the right way. But I would tell the people who don't yet hurt, who can, the best way to be becoming the person who isn't going to be hurt by life. Because if you're not running or moving or whatever else, then you're going to hurt yourself bringing in the groceries or just tripping on a step because your balance is off, is to be out there moving and doing. And so what about the niggling knee pain, the niggling back pain, the niggling plantar fasciitis, heel pain, foot pain, or soreness that doesn't go away? Are those the kind of things that should keep you on the couch and saying, oh, I would do that, but the wise choice here is for me to not do that? Mm-hmm. And we can't answer that question over the radio for you, right? Somebody's going to have to go with their gut. But go ahead and bring
let's unpack some of it. So it came, I don't know exactly how you and I got on the same tangent with it, but I know that it was, I don't know now, 6-8 years ago, something like that. And it was Father's Day. My Father's Day gift to myself is I went on a 2-hour run. So I went up to the high mountain lake, near us, and did a 2-hour run. Everything was great mentally and overall physically, but it was kind of a turning, kind of a crux of my back hurts, my back and my hip. Something is wrong. I don't know if you remember, but somehow it was right around then somebody referred
Nightshades.
No. No, somebody referred us the book, Born to Run.
Oh.
Do you remember the stuff? Somehow you and I ended up on it together. We read it together, and I don't know if I can't remember the catalyst. So anyway, for me, that happened. And then we get this Born to Run book, which if you type Born to Run, it's by
Chris McDougall. And and to cut to the chase, he talks about minimalist running and talks about our shoes. Lots of controversy there. And I'll probably get a bad review on it, like we did on talk about prolonged fasting. That's terrible. And, it's stupid. Read the book. It's a really entertaining book. Yeah.
It's a great read, just an entertaining read. But then it does talk about this minimalist running. And this guy, so McDougall was a journalist. I mean, I think he's a runner and an athlete, but he's a journalist. And his story was he went down to Mexico, like in some native area,
just to cover the story of these runners. And what he ultimately came back with is, why do we have all these, even elite runners, who, in America especially, and they get to 50, 60 and they don't run anymore because they're injured. He goes down here and witnesses these little kind of natives that run more, run longer, and run forever.
Yeah, 90-year-old guys in sandals made out of tires, and they're just running and having fun, injury free. And he's just going, why? It's kind of like the French paradox that we talk about. The French eat late, eat high fat foods, eat all this stuff that we say don't do, and they're healthier than we are.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this paradox. So he goes down, and that's where the story is and looking at it. But he does cite some history on, shoes that we began. Well, think back again. When did we first start running? We weren't wearing shoes. We were barefoot. That was during the time. That was another thing. That was during the time when we had the elite runners, Ethiopia guys at my house, and they were telling us stories of they never had shoes until high school.
Yeah.
And that they just run all day. They'd run 2 miles to school, run 2 miles home to eat because food wasn't provided, run 2 miles back, and then after school, run 2 miles home. And I said, did you guys have like recess and playtime? Oh yeah. What'd you guys do? I ran. Play soccer, run around. So they're running constantly in those shoes. Well, now they're elite runners sponsored by Nike or whatever, but their form is really different, much more forefront. And so that's what this guy, if you remember, do you remember he talked about, was it Harvard or Stanford runners? Do you remember that?
No, it's Oregon and Nike. Yeah. It's Oregon and Nike and the elite runners and Nike came around and this is in the 60s, 70s when jogging started to become popular. And so now it's okay, how do we enhance human performance here? Can we put a shoe on somebody's foot and help them to run faster? And the thought then back then was lengthen your stride, heel strike, get more efficient. And in order to do that, you got to put a shoe on because it hurts.
And so they made those shoes. And then the story goes, so the Nike rep comes and shows up at the university and the team is training and all his shoes are in a pile. And the coach says, something effective, I'm so sorry. They just run better without them, but we'll have them wear them during the race. So that people see them. And it's some of the talks about why did we, as the shoes got fancier and higher tech, we seem to have a correlation of more injuries.
And that's what the coach had said. It was, thank you for the new shoes, but if they run in their old ones, their form is better and they don't have as much injury. And of course, like you mentioned on the front side, this is controversial. It's not true of everybody all the time.
Well, what got me though is thinking about, not to make this a spiritual thing or whatever, but whatever you believe, to go back and when did we get to the point of going, you know what, God did a pretty good job, but he really screwed our feet up. We got to subsidize.
We're going to have to fix this.
Yeah, we're going to have to fix that. Our feet.
We need really good support.
Yeah. Yeah, because he didn't do. And in the book they talk about it's the antithesis of an arch would be to support it
from underneath.
Yeah, it's supposed to be strong. So. There, I just want people to think about that. Make your own conjecture. Read the book, or go read about minimalist running, barefoot running. You'll see lots of controversy. You'll see stuff that we did a study and everybody who did it got injured.
I think you have to do it right. You have to do it well.
Well, I just want people to think about it, though. It'd be like saying right now, if we took 10 people off the street and said, okay, everybody start doing burpees, 10 burpees every hour. I did that yesterday. I set my thing and just
10 burpees every hour. Yeah.
And we did that. Most of them would get injured. Why? Because they don't do burpees.
Ready for it.
We'd have shoulder injuries and aches and pains. So if you go from a lifetime as me, so I was a bad heel striker. Going back to my father's day, I was a bad heel striker. So I got big, and I was in custom orthotics. So I had carbon fiber orthotics supporting my arch, all these things that in the book they're going, well, again,
destroying your arch.
I never asked myself, God screwed my feet up. And so, well, yeah. So I was doing that, and to go back and go, why? Why should we not be able to run? Like, why were these Ethiopian guys able to run barefoot? What did they do? Did God make their feet different and just bless them? And so where did we get that? So it's a good question to ask. First off, why do we think we have to have all the support?
Do you remember the one Olympic athlete, the woman, Zola Budd?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I was dumbstruck.
Oh, it's
that
like she's the
ran barefoot.
dumbest person ever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this poor person, can she not afford? I will give her.
Or I just thought she's just being some kind of a show off.
Yeah. And I remember the arrogance of our thought process there. Mm-hmm. My dad was a summer student missionary in Africa, and this is a same thing, but just the thought process. And he was in his 20s, and he thought, oh, these poor natives have to have a bowel movement 3 times a day. Oh. Instead, I only go every other day. This giant log, like a normal human American, advanced
normal American, yeah.
And the construct there, he really thought that the poor people have to go all because they eat this horrible stuff called
fiber,
vegetables,
real food. Yeah.
And we're saying the same thing about, these poor children can't even put shoes on their feet. And it's like, well, God love them.
I know.
The blessing of that on your feet and the splayed out and the strength of it and all of that. Yeah, we grew up, remember the white shoes?
Yeah.
That your mom took your first pictures in, and they're like bricks.
Yes.
And they conform your feet to the shoes rather than the other way around.
So terrible. Yeah. Yeah. And I've got my kids, and we've of course advocated for that, and they spend most of the time during the summer barefoot, and they'll be running down our gravel driveway.
Yeah. I can't barefoot. I can't even.
I still can't either because we have tender feet. And so we're not advocating that everybody live barefoot, but we're saying, let's think about this. And that's what this guy did a study on in the book, Born to Run. He studied that. And so we can tell our story real quick, but I want people to hear, I have shared this with so many people who I run across who say, oh yeah, I used to run, but I can't now because of injury. And I say, look, just check the book out, check out the concept, and have had a good number of them going, oh my gosh, I am able to run again. So that's what we're holding up a possibility for.
Luke Savage, Justin.
Oh,
that was back in our days, and when I first met him, and he was talking about knee pain and all of that, and he became a 100-miler.
Well, so I do want people to think about if you have this big, thick cushion on the back of your heel, it enables you to hit the ground, heel strike without pain. Now, if you're the Ethiopian guy out there and they're running on rocks and whatever, you can't do that. So what does it do? It forces them to run with more of a forefront landing where you do have the pad on your foot. But if you think about the dynamics, you literally are now leaning forward more. And that's what the argument is, or the sharing in the book is, that it changes your form and you're now not hitting so hard structurally. And
as it transmits through
to
your
everything,
knees
yeah,
and your hips
and everything. Yeah. And now you're doing it correctly. And so now here I am, after we transitioned, and we both did it poorly, but after we transitioned, then I found myself, 2 years later running 2 hours, zero pain in great times because of my form overall changed, forced by now I don't have this opportunity to slam my heel into the ground and do that. So that's the concept that you can, again, lots of controversy, but I don't think the controversy personally, I don't think it lands, it pays out. And there could be somebody who does have a literal problem, a foot problem, and the support is just, you're broken enough and you do need that support. I guess that's out there, but I think.
Well, and I would say there's less controversy these days because of what you just said, that it's a recognition that there's different forms, there's different people, there's going to be different shoe types, and whether you're a pronator and under overpronator and all of those kind of things are kind of like everything else. It's just way more complex than we thought. Mm-hmm. But if you're like what we want to do to help people out there think, the likelihood of most humans is that you're going to be better off if you can be minimal, if you can lean forward, if you're going to be a 4-foot striker. That's more likely truer for more people.
Well, let's talk. So one of the things about that is having a shoe that does not have lift. So what you and I are generally looking for in all shoes is zero. They call it zero drop. So forget about even the cushion at this point. It's just saying, why does it make sense that we need to elevate the back?
Have a heel.
Yeah, have a heel. Yeah. So I'm in. What am I wearing today? I'm wearing some Limbs shoes.
And I'm wearing Ultra.
And you're wearing Ultra. So I have very little cushion, or they're very, no drop. They're just flat and even and very minimalist. You're in Ultras, which have no drop, but you have a big cushion.
Yeah.
And there's debates on that. I
do it because I don't ever sit down.
You stand all day, standing.
Like standing on those all day. Like it did. By the end of the day, my thought was my feet hurt.
Yeah.
Rather than I'm getting stuff done. So
maybe you're standing more than you should, sedentary and whatever. Yeah. But didn't you read a lady recently who talked about it was more of a barefoot thing of going, gosh, yeah, but then the rocks hurt. She said, well, that should make you run according to the terrain and be aware of it. It's kind of
right. Wasn't that you? Yeah, she is a footologist, not a doc, but in the physiology of feet. The cool thing, and you can find these things on YouTube, if you see somebody running barefoot and it's in the super slow-mo and where your toes actually reach out and they try to feel and then land and that motion. So she's all into that and the physiology and healing people that are really broken. And the guy the doc that was interviewing her was like, well, yeah, no, when I teach people to transition, I tell them get barefoot and go on a really nice green grassy field.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, because you want to teach your feet to protect themselves. Remember in the book how that says, watch a 2-year-old go run through the rocks and
kind of scamper.
Yeah. And that's kind of the Tarahumara. It was more or less of a run and more of a scamper.
Yeah.
The Indians in Mexico. And that theoretically would be then the best longevity kind of run, not for power, not for pace, not for performance, not for those kind of things, but for longevity and healthiness to your feet would be the fun scampering on your toes. But you have to protect yourself. Your feet have to feel their environment. And if you're all relaxed on the beach or on the grass, then when you go onto the asphalt or onto the something else that you've not trained your foot to be aware.
And again, there's people on the extreme side. And I saw a guy, he was training with Rich Roll, Rich Roll, famous guy now. And this dude is total barefoot and it showed his feet. And my gosh, they were like pads. I mean, he had built up, he could run on anything. I'm not going to do that.
I don't want to spend the time that he took.
Yeah. I mean, we live up where it's cold a lot and stuff, and I'm going to wear shoes. So again, this is call it like you say, the spectrum of, we're just talking. So I don't run barefoot. I wear minimalist stuff. Sometimes you talked about it's, whether it's for performance, I want to perform. I like running fast. So when I'm doing it on these mountain trails and we've got the rocks and stuff, I want something that's going to protect me from a rock bruise because I don't want to pay attention to that. Maybe, that lady would say for overall best health of my feet, I should, but we're trying to make everybody have an incremental gain here and be able to just go out and move.
Right. Be becoming a little bit better.
If you want to run a marathon barefoot, you can do that probably. Yeah. But if you just want to be able to run, you pick how far you want to go. But I am going to say we're advocating or that you would question and go read if you want to figure out zero drop shoes, let your foot be flat on the ground. That's right. Heels don't really make sense. I don't know.
Let it stretch out your Achilles. Otherwise, when you wear a heel, you're shortening the angle from calf all the way around to forefoot.
Yeah.
You shorten that angle. So all of your Achilles, the muscle, the soleus, and then on the arch, you're also shortening it. So, and if you walk around in heels 8, 9, 10 hours a day, and then 8 hours at night where your foot is relaxed also shortens. So the Achilles tightness and the foot tightness just gets shorter and tighter over time, increasing the chance of injury. Let's also say, though, as we encourage people to go lean into minimalist, lean into zero drop, do it slowly.
And that's we both read the book. This is the coolest ever. I got the literal little sandals, like just barely anything over your feet. And then pretty quick, we both got injured.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it plantar fasciitis?
Mine was. What
was the other one? What's the other injury? Common foot injury called? I can't remember. I don't know. We both injured our feet and then couldn't run at all.
Right.
For 6 months. And then we went into it slowly. And so
wisely.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause again, we can't, I had been living for years in heels, custom orthotics, supporting my arch, whatever, and then sort of transition. So it took me a long time. It took my wife hardly at all. But what we realized is she just naturally, because she was a dancer. She's a lifetime dancer. So she was used to being on her forefront. Ballet and stuff.
She also probably has high arches.
Oh, yeah. Super high arches.
No shoe that supports her arch.
Yeah.
Like there's no shoes like my wife too with these really high arches.
Well, and so to that, so when you and I started, I measured my foot and I can't remember the timeline. It's been so long now, a year later, whatever, my foot had gotten a little shorter because my heel had grown in strength and tightened up. I mean, it wasn't huge. I don't even know if it was half a shoe size, but it had. And then I've spent, years and years at home barefoot. That was part of my training. It was at home, be barefoot, and even try to think about not clunking my feet. We have concrete floors downstairs, so that's great. And to think about being more, it changed my form of walking even. So again, we're talking about a retraining so that we can be injury-free.
Walk and be injury-free when you're 60, 70, 80, 90. Doing what you need to do.
And we are talking about running form, and you can go look a lot about running form. And even that, I'll see people who are out running and that tendency to shuffle, to have your shoulder, to be hunched over and stuff. And you can look at a good runner. They're also, you have great posture anyways, but I tend to think about it more when I'm running, to think kind of chest out, shoulders back, and chin up even.
Have you thought about that as we've done the breath work?
Yeah, I'm struggling with my posture.
I can totally tell, because I will in the winter, and I value reading a book on the treadmill, but trying to keep the mouth closed. But I'm reading, so I'm looking down.
Yeah,
and to hold that up makes a dramatic difference in the efficiency of air transfer.
Yeah,
which is going to impact your running quality and all of that.
I spent so much time biking too, and
which by proxy, over you
totally
by definition.
And I spent years and hundreds of thousands of miles as a pro cyclist doing that kind of stuff. So, posture, thinking about that's another part. We keep talking about feet, but talk about, you were talking about feet, the shoes, how your feet hit the earth. What would you say? Your forward as opposed to backwards. Your
stance.
Okay. And then your posture too, just of your back. How are you holding yourself? All those things add into why we tend to get injured. But also, anybody who hasn't been running, who starts, you just got to go slow. If you're overweight, it's another, the pressure on your knees and everything else. So there's so many factors. Again, so we're talking about anybody who wants to do this. If you don't want to, you can go ride a bike. There's low impact. You can go swim. But a lot of people just aren't going to make the effort to do that. So running's easy to do,
because the excuse level goes way down.
Yeah. Or even for a walk, anybody can do that, even generally at night after dinner, to just go for a walk, even if it's not brisk, but the more you can do, the better. I did want to talk about some of the things with running that I think help it as well, because we do tend to think of jogging. If you think about the American, you say, hey, do you run? It's a kind of a basic jog at the same speed. And if anything, you'll hear people go, yeah, I'm just trying to run 2 miles without stopping, without walking or whatever. And I have seen, it's great that they're doing it, but I cringe a little bit when I see the older person out there who's been running forever and they're just shuffling and they're hardly moving. They're so stiff. They're hunched over. They're shuffling along. It's great compared to their peer who's in a wheelchair at the nursing home drooling. But to think about,
could they spend the time and be a little bit better?
Yeah. So to think about things like, and I got some of this from the runners that live with us. They do so many different exercises and techniques. So they'll spend a day and say, yeah, we're doing speed work, and they'll do speed work. And to think about that, it totally changes your form. They'll do high kicks, and the kids in school, my kids in cross country and track, they'll do high kicks, they'll do sprints, they'll do hills, they'll do steps. I got in the habit. Sometimes I'll do, like, you're running along, think about running along, and then do a 360 while you're running, right? And keep going forward. You got to kind of twist your feet around. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's killer just for balance and coordination, and you're getting your mind around it. I thought, I want to be the 90-year-old guy who can do that. And most 90-year-olds can't stand on one foot, but so many things you can do around running, and sometimes yesterday I went out and I did kind of intervals. I ran faster than I'm capable of doing for a long period of time until I'm out of breath. And then I stopped and walked. It wasn't some suffer pain fest. I walked and thought and whatever, but changing it up is the point. Cross-training, just like with weights. And they say, what is it? Not muscle
memory.
Yeah. But what's the confusion?
Yeah. The opposite of muscle memory.
Yeah. But to think about that, I see runners sometimes that are just the same guy shuffling along. Go, oh man, just take a break off of your normal shuffle and do a sprint, or do some stairs, or do some high knees, and pump your arms. And one of my kids, Canyon, is real bad about. He won't move his arms much. And you look at good runners and they're pumping their arms. So and in that you're using more. We have a lot of people around here in Colorado who I'll see using the sticks.
Yeah.
I guess not running. I guess
not running,
walking,
but walking sticks, hiking sticks.
Yeah.
Is a different kind of a hike.
Yeah. And I think, again, it just it changes it up. And I see some people, I feel like they get imprisoned on thinking, no, running is going outside and trying to, for 2 or 3 miles, not stop running. And what they do is just kind of end up stuck in a plateau of the same pace, the same form, the same whatever. And I have to give myself permission to stop. Go, man, I'm going to sprint. And then I'm going to stop and I'm going to walk a little bit. I'm not getting any points here.
Right. What you just said helped me out a lot of saying, just give yourself permission. I'm not here to hurt.
Yeah.
I don't need to hurt. And people, I want to lean into challenge, but I don't need to hurt. I am here to be outside. I'm here to jog, to move, to do those kind of things. But I'm also here to listen and learn, because there's always something in my ears, or walking with a book or something like that. And I noticed that, like you said, I can walk and think, but it's harder to run and think. I can run and listen, but if it's me, I'm thinking about my breathing and my feet and my this and my that, and I just want to think in my own head. So I give myself permission.
Well, I want to do that. There's a lot of people like you who listen to podcasts like this while they're running. It's a great way to get double benefit.
Yes. For me, it's very valuable time to be spent doing two things.
Yeah. I don't listen to anything. I enjoy the time of nothing. So even when I was a pro cyclist, I don't listen to music, didn't listen to anything. It was kind of a meditative thing. And sometimes I'll realize I'm riding or running to the point of effort that I appreciate that I can't think of anything. Man, I'm just caught up in effort and, some pain and stuff. And I dig that it's almost a mind clearing
flow. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, other times though, I will go out, and sometimes if I have something on my mind, a certain focus, I'm able to get good clarity and focus on a specific idea. I get frustrated when I realize I'm just scatterbrained thinking of stuff, and I'll just try to just be present and realize that's Pikes Peak. Would you enjoy the scenery a little bit? So a lot of stuff you can do, for your mental wellness or capability or stretching along with that. And some of that too, you talked about flow. So I had Stephen Kotler recently, and his latest book is The Art of the Impossible, but his business is Flow. It's like Flow Research or something like that. And he talks a lot. He's a big athlete. He talks a lot about that, about being in flow, being in that state of just, you're just grooving along. But the thing I posed to him, I thought it's kind of hard to do that unless you have some level of mastery. I don't know if you're not going to find flow running as a new runner when you're trying to think about.
I think that's fair. And I would also go into the cross training, that if you are a person who can meditate, can breathe, can do breath work, can sit there and be in the 3 to 5 minute category, some level of mastery, I would say that guy as a new runner is going to get to a runner's high.
Yeah.
Quicker.
Yeah.
And I would even challenge him with that this is another, like the muscle confusion. Train your body to reach flow when you're just sitting there. Train your body to reach flow with mindfulness, meditation, breath, and heart work. And then also there's the athletic performance side of that most athletes will say, I'm in the zone. I can't miss the basket. It all just feels right. It's working for me. That's the flow state.
Which I've experienced in running and cycling. That's it. I've never experienced flow with tennis or I did do swimming for a season one time and finally got to that point where I could just cruise along, but it took a long time. But to that, I want to hear, for people to say, I mean, this is one of those things, we had a friend, who said, I hate running. If you hate running, then do something else.
Right.
That said, it was a great experience recently. I think I've talked about it, but my son Canyon, who last year did cross country for the first, he had run in doing some races as a kid, but then had a bit of a gap. We got him in cross country. He said, I hate it. I don't like running, but we said, you got to do something. And so he chose that because his brother was doing it, did his first race and did like 37 minutes, which for a high school kid who's in pretty good shape, I said, dude, come on, were you crawling? What happened? And he said, I just had no will. I just don't like it. Whatever. But he kind of kept at it. Next race, and they were gapped out because all the kids couldn't do the same races every week. So it was a couple weeks later, whatever, he does something like a 27, which is still for a high school kid, not real fast, but that's a huge improvement.
Yeah.
Then and I heard from his other brother that he was kind of being more social and talking about it, whatever. Last race, he almost went under 24, which that's a pretty respectable time. It's not, 15-minute world record pace or anything like that, but pretty good. But he also said, I get it. I get it, Dad. I get how you can kind of enjoy it. That has been my experience with most people. If you will stick with it enough, and also listen to this, have permission. You don't have to kill yourself every day, and try to enjoy it. Do some things that are fun along with it, that most people, if they continue to do it, will find some joy or at least less misery. Is that fair?
Yeah. The same is true for tennis, Kevin, and swimming.
Right. That you will do that. So, the book Born to Run is a great read. It's really informative. You can go look at that, but you can put in minimalist running or running form, find a lot in there. I am personally going to question if you hear negative about minimalist running, because it just doesn't make sense to me. And I think some of the studies don't stand up real well, but we'll probably get criticism for this. Check it out, see what you think. But I want to hopefully have given some opportunity and possibility that you can run and address some of the things that are keeping you from running and how that benefit.
Running is also the pathway. If people think about injury, it's also the pathway to healing. And I would say every human is born to run, to be able to run until they die in their 90s. It's truer of walking. And that's where I think, if somebody's already in their 70s and they've lived 70 years of leading to brokenness, then are they going to be able to go run? And there's less likely of a chance there. But for us in our 30s, 40s, 50s, to be becoming the kind of person who can still run and enjoy it in 70s, 80s, 90s, I think is kind of close to a baseline. We ought to be able to.
I wish I was living a lifestyle where I ran to my office. And then
I've lamented this so often. Again, when we were in Germany, and I rode my bike to work 99% of the time. Yeah. Rain or shine. I cherished it. And it's such a missing piece in a non-biking friendly country and town and state.
I lived in Holland, and everybody rode everywhere.
Yeah. And that is a part of their culture and why they get much more credit than our culture for being happy and well-adjusted and all of those things.
Yeah. But again, it's not that my life doesn't work that way. I mean, anywhere I'm going, I'm usually getting a kid, you're getting a pile of groceries, you're getting stuff. It.
So we didn't have any kids at the time.
Thus, like this, we're going to finish this thing and you're going to go out for I'll run. I'm going to go for a ride. But, hey, hopefully this was a help to some of you who are interested in running.
Yeah.
Friends, thanks for tuning in as we all work to leverage the power of our unique inner drive and wake every day to our authentic, driven, and inspired lives. Thanks to my buddy, Randy James, medical doctor, functional medicine expert. You can find him, as a lot of you have been doing lately, at truelifemedicine.com. And if you appreciate the podcast, it would be such a gift if you would leave us a rating on Spotify or a review on Apple. And if you do, let me know. Send me an email at kmiller@kevinmiller.co and let me know you left a review so I can thank you. Subscribe to YouTube and all the social media. You can find the whole episodes, all of them on YouTube. You can find all of our clips and reels and all that jazz on the other social media at Kevin Miller CO, all of it. And if you want to learn how to master your own inner drive, get my book, What Drives You, on Amazon in any format. I just had a few people recently say, I listened to the audio and they said listening to me. I actually read it it. And it's a lot of fun because I get to read it with my own inflection. I wrote that thing, man. I know what I meant in each sentence there. Until next time, stay driven.
Yeah.